The harbour smells of coal and brine. Rope creaks. Gulls wheel over cranes that move like tired animals. It is late August 1941 in Tallinn. The city waits and listens. Guns rumble far inland. The streets hold their breath. A girl stands at the edge of the quay with a suitcase that is too heavy. Her name is Anna. She holds a red scarf in one hand. It belonged to her mother. Her father works on a tug. He tells her to keep the scarf on her wrist so he can find her in a crowd. He says it like a rule. She nods and says she will. Sailors coil lines on the deck of a minesweeper. The steel smells of oil and salt. A petty officer runs his thumb along a cable and checks for kinks. He has done this for 12 years. He has never felt a cable tremble the way this one trembles. He does not tell anyone. He keeps working. Work keeps hands steady when the mine shakes. A staff officer studies a chart in a room with no windows. He points to a thin path drawn in pencil. The path runs out of Tallinn and past a dark point on the map. The name of the point is Juminda. The word looks small. The danger does not. Mines are thick there. Mines lie like seeds in a field planted by men who want only death to grow. Admiral Tribute signs an order. His handwriting is neat. His jaw is set. The Baltic Fleet will leave Tallinn. It will carry soldiers and nurses and clerks. It will carry families and children and crates that no one should lift. It will carry the city's last hope for a road to Leningrad by sea. He knows the road will pass through fire. He signs anyway. Leaders sign when no one else can. The docks fill with shapes and voices. Carts rattle. Boots thud. Babies cry. Dogs bark and then fall silent as if they know how to listen. A band plays 2 songs that no one can finish. Men put instruments away and lift crates instead. A woman ties a scarf over her hair and counts heads. She loses count and starts again. Counting is a kind of prayer. On a barge, a cook stirs a pot with a wooden spoon. The soup smells thin and kind. He tells the boy beside him to taste it. The boy says it needs salt. The cook laughs once and says everything needs salt. He pours the soup into tin cups and tells the boy to hand them out fast. He knows this is the last hot thing many will taste for days. At dusk, the harbour grows dark but not quiet. Orders travel by hand. A whistle blows 3 times and then once more. Lines come off bollards. Steam pipes hiss. Anchors rise with chains that drip black water. The ships form columns. Destroyers lead. Minesweepers walk the water with their light gear out. Trawlers and barges take the heavy loads and the heaviest hearts. Anna finds a place on the deck of a freighter near the rail. She keeps the red scarf on her wrist. She leans into her father's coat and feels him breathe. He talks about the sea as if it were a person. He says the sea hates hurry. He says the sea likes order. He says the sea remembers everything. The first column noses past the harbour mole. The city falls behind like a line drawn in chalk. The lights go out. Only a few lamps glow under hoods. The night smells of pine and smoke and the kind of fear that makes teeth ache. The ships point east. The sea lifts and sets them like a mother with a heavy child. On the flagship, a navigator holds a stopwatch and a bearing. He calls numbers that sound like a code. The captain repeats them in a voice that makes steel relax. The helmsman listens with his whole body. He turns the wheel and feels the ship answer. He thinks about the mines laid off Juminda. He thinks about how some mines rise and fall with tide. He thinks about how a ship can die without a sound. Planes cross the coast at sunset. They do not attack. They watch. A radio operator hears their voices and writes a note. He folds the note and puts it in a pocket. He does not want to add one more worry to a bridge that already bends under weight. He will tell the captain if the planes return. He prays they do not. A storm builds far to the north. Wind touches the mast with a small hand. The crew feels the touch and looks up. Clouds gather where the sea turns black. The ships hold course. The minesweepers stay ahead. Their gear sings in the water. The song is thin and nervous. It keeps time with the engines. Night falls like a curtain. The horizon vanishes. The convoy slides past the last line of lights on shore. The coast becomes a memory. The sea becomes the world. Someone begins to hum. Someone else joins him. The song has no words. It keeps a beat that says stay, hold, breathe, wait. Near midnight, the lead trawler signals a change. The column will narrow. The turn toward the channel begins. The helmsman repeats the order and feels the hull ease to starboard. He keeps one eye on the compass and one ear on the engine. He imagines the mines as grey moons hung at the wrong height. He imagines them with patience. He does not imagine mercy. A lookout breathes on his hands and counts swells. He thinks he sees a dark shape slip across the bow. He blinks and the shape is gone. He rubs his eyes and looks again. He decides to say nothing. He decides to trust the sweepers. He decides wrong. Choices at sea are knives with both edges sharp. The first blast comes without warning. It is low and heavy. It lifts the stern of a barge and sets it down crooked. A second blast follows. Water leaps like a wall. Men shout. The column wavers. A captain shouts, "Hold course." The words come out like a rope thrown to a drowning man. Ships take the rope and hold. On the freighter, Anna feels the deck shiver. She holds her father's coat and breathes through her mouth. She tells herself to count to 10 and then to count again. She does not stop until the sea calms. Her father says it was far off. He says it was only one ship. He's wrong. He knows he's wrong. He lies because a lie can be a bridge that lasts 1 hour. 1 hour can be life. The convoy moves on. Behind it, the sea burns for a long time. Flames ride oil that pours out of a cracked hull. The light stains clouds and faces. The columns turn a little to avoid the worst of the fire. Minesweepers cut arcs like careful knives. Sailors rest their palms on steel and ask it to hold. Steel listens when hands speak plain. Toward dawn the wind shifts. It carries a smell like old rope and bitter smoke. It carries the whisper of planes, engines, distant, closer, close. A siren wails on the flagship. The men look up. The night has one more lesson for them. The lesson will arrive with sun. The sun breaks a thin line on the eastern rim. The sea turns from black to iron. Clouds lie low like lids. Engines drone above the sound of the wakes. Bombers appear as smudges and then as crosses that grow. The convoy tightens. Guns lift and point. Men hold their breath and then let it go. The sound is not fear. It is the sound men make when work begins. The first attack comes in a shallow dive. Bombs fall in pairs and skip on the water like flat stones. A destroyer throws the wheel and cuts white scars through grey swells. The ship clears the first bomb and takes the second in spray. No hit. Another ship is not so lucky. A burst lifts its bow and drops it. Plates ripple. A whistle screams below. Steam punches out of a hatch in a white fist. Mines still wait beneath the wakes. A minesweeper tugs at her gear. The cable sings high and snaps. The crew reels back. A float bobs once and vanishes. The officer of the deck swears and then speaks calm. He calls speed and heading as if he were ordering breakfast. Calm keeps ships in line when charts turn to rumour. At Juminda, the sea is a trap. Lines of mines run from the point like nets cast by a giant. The Finns laid them. The Germans added more. Some hang deep for destroyers. Some hang high for trawlers. Some are new. Some have drifted from where they were born. The channel through them is thin as a blade. The convoy must step along it without looking down. Anna hears a scream she does not know. It is the sound steel makes when it tears. The freighter beside hers lifts and splits. People run to the rail and then run away from the heat. A boy jumps. He vanishes in smoke. A man throws a line and the line catches fire in the air. The crew haul a ladder out of a pile and push it over the side. Hands find it. Hands slip. Hands find it again. The sea keeps and gives in the same minute. Enemy planes circle and return. A Heinkel crosses low. Its bomb falls like a heavy fruit. It hits a barge loaded with carts and people and sacks tied with string. The barge folds. The sound is soft. The screams are not. A minesweeper swings in and throws lines. Men in canvas suits pull and pull. They do not look at faces. They look at hands. They save hands and the bodies follow. Many do not. The flagship orders smoke. Funnels belch clouds that roll across the water. The convoy becomes a ghost in a grey room. The pilots lose the line. They drop short and long. One bomb finds a ship that carried flour. White bursts out and coats deck and men. A sailor laughs once through black smoke and white dust. He looks like a ghost who found work. The mines do not care about smoke. A destroyer hits one on the starboard bow. The blast tears the foredeck and takes the anchor with it. The ship staggers but keeps speed. The captain refuses to stop. He knows stopping here is a polite way to die. He signals a tug to pick up those who went over the side. He salutes a man he will never meet again and turns to the next bearing. By noon, fire patrol lines the horizon. Columns of smoke mark each loss. The sea glitters with oil that hides knives. Lifeboats row toward ships that cannot slow. A sailor throws a line with perfect aim. A woman ties it with a knot she learned as a child. She climbs and does not look down. She reaches the rail and falls to her knees and kisses steel. Steel tastes of salt and rust and life. On a minesweeper, a young man named Mikhail counts seconds between blasts. He times his breath to the count. He hands cartridges to the gun crew until his fingers go numb. He thinks of his sister in Leningrad and of the street where chestnut trees bloom. He thinks of the smell of bread. He promises the sea a loaf if it lets him live. He smiles once at the thought and keeps loading. The afternoon brings thunderheads and rain. The sky and sea blur. Planes cannot see. The convoy breathes for the first time since dawn. Men drink water and do not taste it. A doctor moves down a deck with a bag that holds very little. He does what he can. He says words that are not lies. He says breathe. He says hold this. He says I am here. Presence is a kind of medicine. He gives it to everyone. At dusk the rain stops. The ships slip between dark islands. The Moonsun Channel is narrow and full of stories. Pilots talk about eddies that pull boats sideways and rocks that move in winter. The helmsmen hold the middle. They hold their breath when the depth sounder ticks shallow. They release it when the tick slows. Night gathers again with a new weight. The air smells like metal and wet rope. A lighthouse shows as a shadow with a spine of brick. Its keeper watches from a dark window. He has hidden his lamp for months. He keeps a small journal that no one will read. He writes 3 lines tonight. He writes that ships pass like prayers. He writes that the sea keeps secrets. He writes that he will mend the door when the wind stops. The convoy anchors for 1 hour. Men lie where they stand and pretend to sleep. A cook boils water for tea and counts cups. He runs out at 12 and starts again at 1. Counting keeps fear from chewing a hole in his chest. The boy who carries the cups has hands like paper. The cook tells the boy to drink too. The boy drinks and nods and says thank you without sound. Somewhere in the fog, a mine bumps a hull and drifts on. It does not explode. A sailor feels the bump through his boots. He swallows hard and stares into black water until his eyes water. He thinks he sees a face. He knows it is oil making tricks with starlight. He looks away. He finds a job. Jobs push faces away. Before dawn, the pilots confer in low voices. The lane ahead is thin. Rocks sit like teeth in a narrow mouth. There is a trick to this passage. You must steer for a mark that looks wrong. The mark is a crooked tree on a small island. You keep the tree over the second lamp on the bridge. You hold it there through the first bend. You trust what your eyes hate. The pilots say at once. The helmsmen nod. Trust is a rope that men share with both hands. Engines turn steady. The convoy moves again. The sea smells of pine and wet iron. The wind carries a hint of peat fires from a village no one can see. A dog barks where no dog should be. The sound travels far and is lost. A destroyer at the head of a column finds the crooked tree and holds it over the lamp. The hull shivers as the current slides under it like a hand. The helmsman does not blink. He learned to drive carts on ice as a boy. He knows the feel of something that wants to slip from under you. He keeps the wheel true. A barge to port falls behind. Its motor coughs and stutters. It carries people and boxes tied with string. A tug eases back and lays a line across the gap. The line hums as it takes the weight. The tug captain talks to the barge as if it were a horse. Come on, 1 more hour. He says it twice. He says it 3 times. The barge listens as much as a horse made of steel can listen. It follows. Bombers return with the sun behind them. The light makes their bellies shine. Sirens wail. Guns wake and speak. Smoke blooms in thick sheets. The convoy becomes a set of shadows that breathe together. Tracers rise like ladders that vanish. A bomb falls near a freighter and slaps the sea with an open hand. The hand leaves a white print. The ship rides over it and does not fall. A nurse on the barge sings a low song that never leaves one note for another. The children under her coat stop shaking. One falls asleep and breathes with small jerks. She keeps singing. She keeps the beat with her thumb on the boy's shoulder. A gunner on a minesweeper tracks a speck that grows. He thinks of his father's field and of crows he chased at 12. He keeps the barrel moving. He fires in short bursts. He hears the click of the feed and knows he's doing the right thing. The plane banks away and leaves a string of smoke like torn cloth. Rain comes hard and sudden. It saves the slow ships. The bombers turn for home. The pilots of the convoy breathe. Men drink and try to taste. The doctor moves again with his small bag. He sews a cut in a boy's scalp and ties the knot with careful fingers. He tells the boy the scar will be handsome. The boy laughs and then cries and then laughs again. The wind shifts with evening. The islands stand like backs of whales. The lane narrows to a throat. The pilots talk fast and point short. The helmsmen ride the wake ahead like a rail. The depth ticks shallow and stays shallow. A destroyer slows to nurse a barge with wounded men and 3 babies who do not know that the world is sharp today. The destroyer takes splinters of paint from a rock and leaves nothing else. In the last blue of the day, A ship ahead finds a mine laid for something bigger. The blast rips the stern and twists the propeller shaft. The ship loses steerage and slews across the lane. The next ship turns hard and kisses the first amidships. The kiss leaves a dent. The second ship slides past with a screech and a prayer. The lane is open again. Night work begins. Signal lamps blink. The code is old and exact. A boy reads the dots and dashes and mouths them like bread. He feels like a man each time a letter becomes a word. He becomes older in 1 hour than he planned to be in 1 year. A cook lights a small stove in a corner that used to be neat. He warms tea and gives it to hands that shake and hands that will not. He scrubs the pot with salt and a rag. He puts the rag aside. He will use it again. Nothing is thrown away when the sea asks for payment. A woman on a barge sings a lullaby from a land that lies across fields and years. The wind carries the notes to the deck of a destroyer. A sailor hears and looks at the sky and cannot tell if he is sad or brave. He decides he can be both. The convoy enters a reach of water that smells like iron and wet stone. The pilots say, Kronstadt is near. They say the boys will appear soon like candles on a black table. They say keep your line and your nerve. They say it once, and then they stop speaking. Silence helps men find the next breath when speech would push it away. Stars harden above the lane. The wake shines behind each ship like a pale rope. A hooded lamp dips on the lead destroyer. The meaning is follow. The meaning is keep faith. The meaning is we are not done, but we are not lost. A flare climbs somewhere to the south and hangs. It drips light like rain. Tracer lines brush the water and vanish. The convoy answers with silence and with speed. Smoke drifts in slow sheets and hides the shapes of bows. A bell rings once and then stops. A gull cries and then is quiet. Small sounds feel large when the sea holds its breath. Near midnight, a pilot boat bobs out of the dark. 2 men climb with wet gloves and short ropes on their belts. They smell of tar and cold iron. They point with small motions. Keep this mark. Give me 1/4 to port. Steady. The words are short so they fit into the wind. A barge lists and will not answer. The tug eases back into the trough. A line bites and hums. The tug coughs once and catches. The barge straightens. People on his deck do not cheer. They only stand and hold rails. They have learned to save their breath for when it is necessary. Just before dawn, the coast rises like a wall. A line of cranes sits still. A chain of low forts crouches in the grey. Kronstadt grows from a smudge into stone. Guns speak far inland. The sound comes across the water like thunder that never learns to end. The first ships make fast at a long quay. Lines fly. Capstans hum. Gangways clatter down and shake under weight. The wounded go first, then the children, then the mothers, then anyone who cannot wait 1 breath more. Order bends but does not break. Officers shape the flow with hands and low voices. Shouting would snap what strength is left. Anna steps onto stone and almost falls. The ground holds still and her legs do not. Her father steadies her with 1 hand. His other hand rests on Ivo's shoulder as if to count heartbeats. A woman pours soup into a tin cup. She says drink. Anna drinks. Heat moves through the cold places inside her. Ivo drinks and keeps his eyes on the cup so no one will see the sea in them. A clerk writes names in a damp book. Ink runs and he blots with his sleeve. He asks each person to say their name twice. He listens as if names were glass. He points to a wagon for those who can sit and to a stretcher for those who cannot. The line tries to curl into a knot. He keeps it straight with patience. A chaplain stands by a bollard with a list that will not grow shorter. He reads in a steady tone. He leaves space between the names so the water can take them. Men remove caps. Women bow their heads. Children learn the shape of grief by watching faces. Wind folds the last name into the clank of chains and the cough of engines. Behind the key trucks idle in a long row. Drivers talk to motors by name. A captain tells men where to lift and where to set down. He speaks as if there were time. There is not. He speaks so the path through the hour will exist anyway. Orders come to the escorts. Go back. Clear more. Bring what you can. The minesweepers take water and coal. The crews take hot tea and a short breath. A boy lies on a coil of line and dreams of a wooden bridge on a quiet river. He wakes with salt on his lips that did not come from sleep. Anna and her father sit on a wagon tailboard. They hold the red scarf between them like a small flag no one told them to carry. The scarf is warm from hands. It smells of smoke and wool. It is proof that threads hold when steel breaks. They join a column toward the inner harbour. They pass stacks of life rings and torn canvas. They pass a gun crew asleep on their feet, with hands still on breech and sight. They pass a nurse who has lost her voice and speaks by touch. She touches a shoulder and a cheek, and a small hand and a larger one. Each touch says you are here. A woman at a table writes more names. She asks for a city. She asks for a street. She asks who should be told if a letter finds them. Anna answers in a voice that sounds older than it did in the morning. The woman writes carefully and nods. She points to a low building with a red cross painted on a door. She says soup. She says blankets. She says rest. Beyond the harbour, a road runs toward Leningrad like a ribbon that has been stepped on. Trucks wait. Horses wait. Men with armbands wave and call and lift. The city will be hungry soon. It will ask for every hand that can hold a shovel. It will ask for every back that can bend. The people who came by sea will become those hands. They will become those backs. They will become the voices that tell children to sleep when glass breaks in the night. Ivo stays near the water. He looks at the minesweeper that carried him. Its bow paint is gone. The rail is dented where a tug pressed too hard. He puts a hand on the metal and feels warmth from the day. He thinks of the cable that sang and snapped. He thinks of a kettle in his mother's kitchen that never boiled fast enough. Heat takes its time when men beg it to hurry. Admiral Tributes walks the quay with a face that does not change for cameras or for wind. He rests a hand on a wheelhouse roof and thanks a captain. He thanks a cook. He thanks the boy who held the line while the gear jammed and the ship slewed. He uses short words. Long ones would not stand in this air. Night comes and the harbour lights are shaded. A bell rings and a chaplain reads another list. He reads without hurry. He leaves space. The wind carries the last line away and folds it into the dark. Men turn in their coats and sleep where they stand. Women sit on crates and hold children who do not sleep and do not cry. Quiet can be as heavy as sound. In a corner of a warehouse, Anna and her father share a blanket that used to be part of a curtain. He tells her he will find work in the morning. He says a tug always needs hands. He says the scarf will be safe in his pocket while she sleeps. She ties it to her wrist again. She says it is safe there. He smiles and nods. He knows she is right. Dawn returns and with it the work. The escort steams south again into the throat of islands. Smoke trails flatten in a cold wind. The minesweeper crews check gear with slow hands. They touch shackles and thimbles and knives. They run palms along cables and listen to the small grind of strand against strand. Steel speaks if you learn its language. A pilot points at the crooked tree that fooled the eye yesterday. Keep it lined with the second lamp again. Trust it even if it looks wrong. The helmsman keeps the mark steady and breathes with the swing of the compass card. He learned balance on a winter road with a cart behind a hungry horse. He keeps the wheel true. Halfway to the open reach, the first mine shows a horn above the chop. It bumps once and spills water from its black back. A gunner puts a burst across it. The rounds find steel, and the canister yawns and fills and sinks. No bloom follows. The mine keeps its secret and goes quiet under the keel. The gunner truces softly and reloads. He does not like quiet when the sea chooses it. In the afternoon, 3 shapes appear low on the horizon. They grow into fast attack boats that hunt shadows. The destroyer lifts spray and moves to cover the slow barges. Guns track. The boats veer away at the first reach of fire. They mark the convoy and vanish behind a headland. A pilot licks a thumb and rubs at a pencil line on the chart. The line was thin. Now it is nearly gone. He draws it again with a hard point. Evening brings a long slant of light across the water. A church tower pricks the sky and is gone. Smoke from wet wood curls above a village the chart does not name. The escorts push on. The tugs pull. The barges follow with patience that looks like courage. Night falls and the channel tightens. Lamps blink in code. The meaning is keep station. The meaning is mind the wake. The meaning is trust your neighbor. A boy on a barge counts the blinks and repeats the letters under his breath. He feels older by the time the word ends. Near midnight, there is a soft thud under a freighter's stern. The ship shivers and steadies. Men freeze and listen. Nothing follows. A minute later, the thud returns from somewhere astern, followed by a hard white flower on the water. The convoy keeps moving. The captain writes the time in a small book. He underlines it once. He will never forget that minute, even if the book is lost. Kronstadt receives them again at dawn. The quay wakes like a factory that runs on hope and noise. Lines fly, engines cough, hatches open. The wounded go down, the children go down. Mothers follow and count small heads with lips that move fast. Anna wakes on a pallet that was once part of a school desk. Light finds the edge of the window and draws a bright line on the floor. Her father has already gone to the harbour to ask for work. She folds the blanket and smooths it twice. She ties the scarf and follows the sound of kettles. In a yard she finds a nurse with a ledger and a crate of bread. The nurse writes her name and her father's. She points Anna toward a room with cots. She says there will be school here again someday. She says the desks will return. She says a bell will ring. Anna nods and tries to picture a bell that is not a warning. Her father joins a tug that needs a mate. The captain is a short man, with shoulders like an ox and eyes that count fast. He shows the lines and the engine and the tools. He says the tug runs day and night. He says the pay is food and coal, and sometimes a letter carried through hard water. The father says that is enough. He takes a wrench and finds the rhythm of the motor with his hands. Ivo walks to the minesweeper pier and signs a scrap of paper. The petty officer looks at his hands and at the set of his jaw and sends him to the bow to learn the gear. The gear is heavy and simple. It asks for respect and gives a little back. Ivo nods and listens and does not look away when a cable scar on another sailor's wrist catches the light. As summer fades, rumors move faster than trucks. The city to the east tightens its belt and waits. Bread lines grow longer. Streets grow quieter. The water between forts grows colder. Work does not stop. Work grows teeth. The escorts keep running south and returning north. They bring the living and the wounded and what can be saved. They bring letters sealed with thumbprints. They bring news that a rock moved and a tree fell. They bring stories of a tug that refused to die. They bring names that need to be read by a chaplain under a hooded lamp. One night, Anna waits at the yard gate with 2 cups of tea in a coat pocket. Her father returns with paint missing from his cheek and oil on his sleeve. He drinks 1 cup and puts a hand on her shoulder. He says the sea was harsh and fair. She asks which the sea is more often. He says the sea remembers every debt. He says you only notice when it comes to collect. Autumn sharpens the air. Frost writes white lines on the rails. The convoy lanes grow stranger as storms pull at buoys and cut at banks. Pilots change old marks for new ones. Some marks are only in a man's head. Keep the broken pine over the low chimney for 3 breaths. Then put the buoy just touching the starboard light, and do not blink until the bell on the point rings. A minesweeper clears a run and finds a cluster of mines tangled in a kiss. The crew watches the horns press and flex. Everyone breathes small. The officer speaks in a tone like a father. He says, bring the float. He says, keep your hands. He says, go slow. The men obey with the attention of prayer. The water gives up the cluster with a sudden sigh that becomes a cheer only after it is safe. In Kronstadt, a small room becomes a school for a few hours each day. A woman writes letters on a slate. She tells the children that words are ropes. If you hold a word long enough, it can pull you across a hard place. She writes the word bread. She writes the word home. She writes the word return. Anna watches the chalk dust fall and imagines snow. Ivo learns the way a cable hums just before it fails. He learns the smell of hot brass. He learns to tie a bowline with eyes shut. He learns to say ready in a voice that carries without shouting. He earns a small scar on his forearm where wire spoke. He rubs it and smiles because it is proof. He was there when Steele asked a question, and he answered yes. In the evenings, the chaplain reads more names. He stands under a lamp with a hood, and the wind tries to take the paper. He holds it with both hands, and with his teeth sometimes. A gull perches on a bollard and listens. The bird tilts its head as if to keep each sound. A nurse hears and presses her palms together for 1 heartbeat for each name. Rituals grow anywhere there is need. A rumor moves that the sea will soon close with ice. Men look at the water and judge its color. Tugs carry chains. Minesweepers carry spare teeth for their gear. The word ice lives inside other words now. It lives inside sleep, and inside bread, and inside breath. One afternoon, Anna walks the quay and sees a plaque leaned against a wall. It has a date and a short line about a headland where the sea kept too much. The plaque is not fixed to stone yet. It waits like a thought before speech. A worker wipes it with a rag. He says the wind will strip it if they put it out too soon. He says some things need to be said indoors until the air is kinder. Years will pass and the water will look smooth again. Men will stand on the breakwater and say it was always calm here. They will not know the taste of oil on spray or the sound a cable makes when it decides to part. Women will walk the pier with the children and point at forts that do not fire. The children will feed crust to gulls and laugh when wings beat close. A man with a notebook will ask for stories. Some will give him pieces. A sailor will describe a green flash that was not light at all, but copper smoke in the dawn. A nurse will describe a song that kept one note for an hour and how it held a child as well as any arm. A tug captain will refuse to say anything and then will say one sentence about a motor that started when he called it friend. Anna will keep the red scarf. She will knot it at her wrist when the air smells like tar. She will knot it when a gull cries with that hinge sound. She will visit a room where children learn to shape words. She will write the word return on a slate with a piece of chalk that stains her fingers. She will tell them that words are ropes and ropes can be bridges. She will tell them that a hand can be a bridge too. Ivo will keep to the water as long as there is water to keep. He will teach a boy where to stand when a line comes in fast. He will show him how to listen to the small song in steel. He will say the sea keeps every debt and every kindness. He will say, pay what you owe in advance. Tie your knots well, count your breaths, share your bread. The chart will still show a point named Juminda. The word is small, the meaning is not. Not all maps carry loss. People do. A map will show a line and call it safe. A person will show a scar and call it true. Both will help you find the way if you know when to look at which. If you stand by the water on a quiet morning and listen without needing to speak, you will hear old voices. One says hold course. One says almost there. Another says thank you. The voices rise with the tide and fade with it. They return when someone is ready to hear them. They do not ask for credit. They ask only to be carried a little farther. This story ends at a quay and begins again on a road. The quay held what it could. The road led to hunger and winter and songs sung softly, so fear would not wake. The vessels rest now. The mines are gone. The charts have new notes in neat small letters. Remember the hands that held lines and the hands that took them. Remember the taste of smoke and the kindness of soup. Remember a red scarf that made a bright thread in grey light. Remember that water keeps memory. Carry it well.